Hello and welcome to Sticky from the Inside, the employee engagement podcast that looks at how to build stickier, competition-smashing, consistently successful organisations from the inside out. I'm your host, Andy Gorham, and I'm on a mission to help more businesses turn the lights on behind the eyes of their employees, light the fires within them, and create tons more success for everyone. This podcast is for all those who believe that's something worth going after and would like a little help and guidance in achieving that. Each episode, we dive into the topics that can help create what I call stickier businesses. The sort of businesses where people thrive and love to work, and where more customers stay with you and recommend you to others because they love what you do and why you do it. So, if you want to take the tricky out of being sticky, listen on. Okay then, let's be honest, there is a lot of noise out there. A slew of emails waiting for you, meetings, messages, expectations from others, deadlines to hit, and that's just the work bit. And then you throw in stuff like the kids, the school run, caring for others, trying to stay fit, remembering birthdays, I am rubbish at that, and maybe, if we're lucky, actually sit down and have a proper conversation with the person we live with. And then suddenly life feels like one giant to-do list with no finish line in sight. It's no wonder so many of us feel like we're running on empty, feeling like we're permanently switched on but rarely tuned in. And it doesn't seem to matter who you are, whether you're leading a company, managing a team, or just trying to keep all the plates spinning at home. Overwhelm doesn't discriminate. My guest today knows this feeling all too well. Julia Wolfendale is the founder and director of On the Up Consulting. She's an accredited coach and the author of the brilliant book, 5 Ways to Focus. Deal with overwhelm, gain clarity and perspective to get things on the up. Now, Julia's coached hundreds of leaders on how to be their best selves and rediscover what really matters, not just in their careers, but in their lives. And recently, while revisiting her book, she had one of those light bulb moments we can all relate to. And looking around at the pace of everything that was going on and the pressures of modern life, Julia realised this stuff is more true than ever. Because the truth is, overwhelm doesn't care about your job title. It hits high performers and self-starters just as hard as anyone else. It's that meeting that overruns and squishes everything else. The inbox that seemingly never empties. The guilt of missing the school play, or the quiet frustration that despite being constantly busy, we're not even sure if we're moving in the right direction or forward at all at times. So in this episode, as we head into a moment where many of us are possibly rethinking what really matters, setting goals, and maybe trying to declutter a bit of life, we're diving into Julia's 5 ways to focus. 5 simple, practical ideas to help us reset, regain perspective, and start getting life and leadership back on the up. Julia, welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. Thank you so much for having me on.
Loving the fact that you're here. I think if ever there was a time to have this sort of conversation, it's probably now. I myself am feeling, I don't know, a little discombobulated. I think there's a lot of stuff I know I want to do. And at the same time, I've got a little bit of work in the background, but I still feel like there's not enough time to cope with it all. And I can sit at my desk, feel like I'm absolutely sprinting, and at the end of it, look back and go, well, what did I actually achieve? I'm not sure much. So I need your help, Julia. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the audience that are going to really resonate with some of the things that you're going to share with us today. I hope, anyway.
I hope so too.
Before we kick off and get into all the meat and bones of the 5 drivers that you're going to talk about, just give us a little bit of a better introduction to you, what you do, and where your focus is right now.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to do that. So, coaching, as you said, hundreds of leaders and having trained more than 1,000 leaders and managers in understanding themselves and having conversations with other people in order to get the best out of them has really shined a light for me on a couple of areas that people are really struggling with. And one of those areas is overwhelm. And I
Mm.
feel like it's never been more true to talk about this as an issue that's affecting all people, all generations. We're overstimulated. There is an abundance of information out there that's grabbing our attention. The algorithms have got smarter to the point where we feel we've got dumber because we can't outwit them. um, and it's exhausting. We're in this culture that's always on. People are experiencing the convenience of WhatsApp chats for work, WhatsApp groups, but actually that's an intrusion. They're finding that they're on those groups and checking those messages, responding to those messages outside of the normal working day now. And during the pandemic, people had more. They rethought their lives, they refocused, they started to think about the things that were important, and they included new things in their lives, and they realized what they missed. And that was a real key point for me. That's when I started the book. And so I thought, actually, this is a point in time when people are really considering what really matters.
Mm.
So how can I shine that light really on the things that people do want to spend their time and attention on, and what have people got their energy for, and what will help them be at their best and be their best selves in their work, their home life, their relationships. But it just feels like more true than ever that people are pretty exhausted out there, and I really like to help people find a way through. I've never really met anyone who doesn't want to be their best self. Um, no one can be their best self all the time, but a lot of us are hoping we can be our best selves more of the time. So perhaps alleviating some of this overwhelm, gaining clarity, having perspective, and focus on the things that really do need to get done and really matter can help people feel that they're more on top of things and they're living and enjoying their lives, not just surviving.
Well, that would be a wonderful thing if at the end of this conversation, you have shared some insights into helping people feel a little bit calmer and maybe have a little more agency in what's going on, and the ability to focus on what really matters. Because I mean, you used a fascinating word there, convenience. It's convenient now. We can access WhatsApp and all those, easy to get hold of. But that is contributing to this always on piece, right? It feels
Mhm.
like it's really hard to stop the world, to shut it off, to quieten the noise. So any tips and stuff on how to deal with that, I think will be fantastic. I just want to start off on the level playing field for everybody listening today. When we talk about overwhelm, Julia, when you talk about overwhelm, how does that show up? What is it that
Yeah.
your clients talk about? What are they experiencing that really defines what overwhelm is for the majority of people?
I think for a lot of people, it's a sense of they know what needs doing and they don't know how to focus on it.
Mm.
So they'll have a sense of the volume of their work, but they'll have less of a true sense of their capacity for it. They may believe that they don't have the capacity for it. So then it's about what can be prioritized, what can be delegated, what really needs doing. What balls can can be dropped, which ones need to be kept in the air. So I think people almost lose this sense of their own capability.
Mm.
So they feel they have a greater impression of what they can't do and have a less of an understanding of what they can do. So in a way, they feel limited, and they're hard on themselves. They are kind of more negatively skewed. And in some ways that's important because it helps you withdraw and it helps you step back and it helps you not take more on.
Mm.
For some people, they keep taking more on until, the boiling point, the point at which actually change is decided for you, and the overwhelm has really tipped over into ill health. Um, so I think the thing with overwhelm, I think almost you can almost sense it as well in your nervous system. If you can't if you sit still, but you sense that you're fizzing with energy, if that doesn't subside, after 15, 20 minutes, with some with having some stillness and some breathing and starting to clear your mind, then actually your nervous system is probably overwhelmed. And it can happen very easily, as I've said. There are so many things that are interesting, exciting, that we can get enthusiastic about, distracted by, and they're not all important.
Mm.
And sometimes we can get caught up in what's important to other people without paying attention to what's important to us.
I think that's a really important point. I mean, if I think about how overwhelm maybe affects me, I know one of the impacts of feeling overwhelmed. Clearly, there's the bit about I just don't know where to start. There's a lot, and I just like, oh wow, how can I prioritize? How can I get going? I definitely procrastinate. I'm straight in. I'm touch loads of things and start stuff. Don't see it through. I'm like a kitten with a laser pen. That any distraction possible takes me away. And but while you're getting that, I guess, relief from the where do I start, there's also this other bit in the background that is like, well, it's building up because I'm not kind of tackling it. So that you're almost multiplying the effect of that overwhelm by leaning into all of those kind of behaviors. And then
Yeah.
if you're anything like me, it's triggering off your various imposters at the same time as well. Well, if I don't do this, then they're going to think I'm an idiot, or the
Yeah.
quality's not going to be great, and you're just building up pressure, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're going through. Hopefully, I'm not on my own like that. I'm sure there's plenty of people doing the
Definitely
same
not.
stuff.
Definitely not on your own. And as you described there, it's when fear is driving
Mm.
that behavior, like I've got to get it done. I fear that what might happen if I don't, or I don't like how I feel about myself because I haven't got it done. That's when we've kind of made that connection, almost like an over association with busyness equals your self-worth.
Yeah.
So, the idea that I'm not a good enough person if I'm not busy. I have to be busy because that's how I judge myself. That's how I see myself achieving. And that's when we've lost sight really of what are the things that really count, what are the things that will really make a difference, what are the things that we do need to bring into sharp focus, because they're the things that lift us up, and I'll talk later about some of the drivers, what's really driving us to behave in certain ways. What we're really looking for is a useful lens to start to look through, because we can just get very busy doing stuff and hamster on the wheel. Keep going, yeah. Eventually, that wheel falls off.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to put my hand in the cage and put that wheel back together.
Yeah. Or
I
sometimes
think,
a hamster dies
well,
too,
oh
but
wow, we went dark pretty early on that, Julia. That's
we did. It doesn't always end in death, but for hamsters sometimes.
well, gerbils even quicker. I found
Yes.
as a kid,
I
but
wonder which are faster and
yeah.
more durable.
Well, there's a question for everybody listening. Please write in and let us know: gerbils or hamsters, which dies faster? Wow. Coming back to the point of we were talking about there, I think this thing about being effective, not busy, that's a mindset change, right?
Yeah.
Not filling your day with stuff, but doing the things that really matter. And I'd like to get into these motivational drivers you've just mentioned. Okay. So the book you reference these 5 motivational drivers. And you also just said something really interesting, understanding what it is you're looking for or trying to achieve. Those two things sort of come together. So explain the drivers and explain that kind of mindset piece that we're talking about here.
Yeah, and I suppose it comes back to, the book being a very simple way of thinking about things to create that new perspective to deal with the overwhelm. And one of the reasons why I pick 5 is, looking into that. 5 is a really easy number for people to keep 5 things in their minds, and when we look at, do you remember when the public health brought in, eat 5 fruit and veg a day? Well, actually, the World Health Organization advocated 7 fruit and veg a day. But the social scientists won out because they said, thinking from a behavioural perspective, people, they'll do 5. They can remember 5. 7's a stretch. And I think that's true of a lot of things. We've got 5 things on our hands. That helps us pick things up, carry our loads. 5 toes keeps us stable. 5's a good number. 3, we might be shortchanging ourselves. 5's a good number of things that we can have an interest and a regard for and bring into focus.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend not thinking about more than that. You probably are tipping into, doing more things that are beyond your capacity. So the motivational drivers really is about thinking about, well, what are you really looking for? The way we go about things, the way we behave is often, there's a motivator behind it all. And if we don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, what we're really looking for, we'll just, like you say, grab the next shiny thing, or like you say, be the laser pen and the kittens. It's more around, okay, what really matters to you, what you're really looking for. So in the book, one of the chapters covers this, and I talk about, if the think about these 5 things. It might be that you're looking for freedom. If you're looking for freedom right now, or fulfillment, or kudos, or fellowship, or it's or even your fortune, your finance. One of those things is going to be really important to you at any one time. So let's take freedom, for example. So you might be in a role, and actually you're looking for something else, but you don't know what it is. Think about freedom. Is it that you want more autonomy in a new position? Is it that you want to make more decisions? Is it that you want to work more flexibly? Is it that you want to, take your ideas more widely? Freedom might, or is it that you want to travel? Freedom might be defined by you obviously differently to anybody else, but freedom might be a real key driver for you. So is that what you're looking for? Or is it fulfillment? Is it a sense of purpose? Is it something that you're looking for that will bring you great reward? Is it something that will really fill your cup, help you feel more rounded as a person, or feel you're making a difference, or really feel that you're on some sort of a mission? That sense of fulfillment. Is that what's important to you right now? Or is it fellowship? Is it that you really crave being part of a team or a network, have that sense of belonging and connection, a group of like-minded people that you connect with, that you understand, you share the values with, and maybe you don't have that right now, in the work that you're doing, or the groups that you're in, or the organization that you're in. Fellowship might be really important to you, and that can help you think about, okay, where, if I'm going to put my efforts, if I'm going to do this work, is fellowship something I'm really looking for? Or it might be finance. Finance might be really driving you. The change that you're looking to make might be really driven by how much you want to earn, or how soon you perhaps want to retire, or what will finance give to you that might kind of give your business that injection of capital that you need, or yeah. So that finance and that money side of things could be a real driver for people, but knowing if it is alongside the other 4 things is a useful way to think. And then finally, kudos. Is it fame you're looking for? Do you want to be known? Do we need to get your name out there? Do you need to be seen? Is it about time that, the work that you've been doing, the knowledge that you've got, the expertise that you have, needs to now reach that kind of wider forum? And what does that look like? Does that look like, you're talking about your work? Does it talk about, being more visible? Or is it about being known and connected with people who are also known for that? So freedom, fellowship, fulfillment, finance, kudos. This is all, each one of those is going to be important to somebody at any one point. And we can rank them 1 to 5. What's really driving you? One of those will be at the top. One of those will be at the bottom.
I mean, that's a really interesting conversation, isn't it? I mean, just even trying to think about those, how many people really bring that to the surface? And I can understand how that might be useful. I also love the link. I mean, I'm a big fan of the sort of the Dan Pink human motivation stuff. And if I look at the 5 factors that you've talked here, there's clear crossover with the whole purpose, mastery, and autonomy piece in there. And then I'm also a massive fan of things like Ikigai. And that, again, crosses over. And I think this is what I find really interesting about this topic. And this is why having a coach on the episode, I think, is a really useful thing at this time, or this context that we're talking about here, because these are not easy things to prioritize and to understand. I don't think. I mean, you could have a very easy shot yourself at thinking about these things, but having a personal trainer approach to kind of making you really think about what is important and why it's important, and even that ranking of priority, you need, I think, somebody to help you have that conversation.
Yeah, and it's going back to the why. It's not what needs doing.
Yeah.
It's why does it need doing? And does it need doing?
Yeah.
And does it need to be you who needs to do it?
Yeah. That understanding of a deeper level about why freedom is important
Yeah.
to you, for example, and then how that shows up. Right. That's a really interesting conversation. In the work that you do, when you encounter somebody who perhaps looks at these things balancing between work and life, and one driver is really, really important for work, but another driver is really, really important for home. How does that balancing piece of a conversation go? How do you help people
Yeah.
through that?
Well, that's a really important question because it is balancing. So it
Mm.
might mean that the person's actually acting in a way that's counterintuitive. So they're saying to me, "Oh, it's freedom I really crave," but actually, then when they'll talk about the habits that they're in, or the way they're actually, behaving at work, that might be really counter to what they really want. So it is about understanding that person, really getting to understand them, helping them understand themselves in a way that means they can align themselves with their true intentions, so that the actions they take, the way they show up in the world, are aligned to how they want to be, rather than the habits that they've got themselves into, or the even, the culture that they find themselves in their organization, or so it's about really listening to people and understanding that if that's what matters to them, how can I help them see that they're where their opportunities are to
And
make those shifts, so they're much more aligned with their own intentions.
brilliant. And this is going to be a daft question, but in all of the conversations you've had around these 5 motivational factors, I know they're very individual, but are there any consistent themes that are coming through today? Perhaps influenced by context, perhaps influenced by the way we're working today, that seem to resonate with more people? Or is it, no, do you know what? It's a complete scattergun. Everybody's individual and there's very, very different things going on.
I think sometimes there's a strong association with somebody who wants freedom but
Mm.
exerts a lot of control.
Oh, that's interesting. How's that showing up? What sort of conversations are you
Well, I
having there?
suppose, someone might be very busy, and it may be that they've got into some patterns where they're micromanaging.
Right.
And what they really crave is the freedom to trust their people. Yeah, and the freedom to go and do the stuff that's on their ideas list. I
That's
always help people separate out as well the difference between their freedom to have ideas and their freedom to choose their actions, because they're not the same thing.
no, and time's a factor in this as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we've got that tension between short-term use of my time, long-term investment of my time, particularly around this thing you just talked about freedom, which might come through stopping micromanaging, controlling, and
Mm.
facilitating, enabling, and empowering people in your team to do different things. But do you know what? It's just quicker if I do the thing now and
Yeah.
cover it for them, rather than invest the time in supporting and coaching someone to be able to sort of take control, take over things, and I can
Yeah.
release the lock on it myself. That could be quite a hard thing for people to get their head around.
It is. But my style is, supportive challenge. I approach with kindness because I do know what it's like to be in the state of overwhelm. I do know how it clouds thinking. And I do think, giving someone that opportunity to be heard, listened to, and help them, coach them through their thinking towards the way they want to start to be. One of the things you touched on there is time.
Mm.
And I do think, when we're in a state of overwhelm, we lose a true perspective of time. We just have this sense that there is no time. But there is time. It's just how we choose to spend that time.
I like the concept of 1440 with regards to time. I like to think about that's how many
Right.
minutes you get in a day.
I'm counting.
If you thought about those as gold coins
Yeah.
instead of minutes, it's a more tangible asset. And would you think twice about where you invest your coins? Would you think twice about who's nicking coins off you? Would you think a bit more about where you're just losing coins down the back of the sofa? And
Yeah.
maybe if you thought about it in that more tangible way, you maybe use your time more effectively.
I think that's very true. And I think, sometimes taking 15 minutes to pause and just, take a little bit of time out can be worth an hour
Mm,
slogging away at something, feeling this is really hard. I'm not enjoying this. This is not what I want to be doing. I know I've got other stuff. All that negativity building up and that, um, bringing that sense of frustration to the task actually detracts from the quality of the work and also has a negative effect on how we feel in our bodies. And when we don't feel, when we feel tense in our bodies, we don't bring, we don't engage
yeah.
well with the task that we're operating on. There's no joy. There's a couple of things I've got though that in the book that I think help people think about time and how to look through a different lens rather than this lens of there is no time, I'm too busy. If that might be helpful to
Yeah,
share.
let's have that. If you're happy to share that, that'd be great.
Well, I think when we're more realistic about time, and think from the point of view of focusing, okay, what have I got time for? I find it's useful to just come up with with 5 simple time frames. So, for example, what can I do in the next 2 hours? Okay, and make a note. What can I do in the next 24 hours? List it all down. What can I do in the next week? Okay, the next month, the next 3 months. There you've got yourself a really nice overview of what is most pressing and can be done in the next 2 hours. You can pick from that list. You've also got a sense of what, by the end of tomorrow, in the next 24 hours, what you'd like to have completed or started. And so you start to think, not like you said, we can get skewed really, can't we? About I think the research says that we tend to overestimate what we can achieve in the short term and underestimate what we can achieve in the long term. But I think when you factoring in, those different time frames, you can have a better perspective. The other thing I do is I schedule absolutely everything.
Yeah,
Everything goes in my diary.
yeah.
And to some people that would create sheer panic, but it's all there. And you know what? If it's not priority, it just gets moved to the next day. And I am forever moving things on, but I don't forget to do things. And if they are important, they do get rescheduled or they get done. And if they're not important, and I'm still getting a reminder to pitch to a magazine 6 months after I still haven't done that, I might review. Is a magazine
Is that?
still something I should be? And I might just take out the list.
I love that because there's something also about whacking it in your calendar that shows the time element of all
Exactly.
this sort of stuff. My desk, if you could see this, and fortunately no one can, it's littered with bits of paper with little notes and bits and pieces on. I know where everything is.
Yeah,
That's my system, but none of it has got any time attached to it, right? And that's where we end up losing track and I become ineffective. And I think the times when I'm feeling very productive, it all goes in my diary. And like you say, yeah, it can be quite a scary thing. Wow, look at all that time. But that's realistically where my time was going to go anyway. But now I
that's
can
right.
see it, right?
If you choose to do it.
If you choose to do it, I think that's the
And
thing.
that's the difference as well. And I do talk to people about that. Like I always used to say, the day I run out of ideas, I'm done. Okay. Being a natural enthusiast, that's like a serious concern for me. What if I run out of ideas? I've started to shift around that a little bit now. Like, actually, that might give me a little bit more peace of mind because there won't be so many things I feel enthusiastic about or attracted to or feel like, oh, that's another action. So when I coach people now and they tell me about what they've got in their mind and what they're thinking about doing, and I'll say, is that an idea or is that an action? Because sometimes it's just an idea. So I say, make 2 lists or make one big list with divide it in half. One side of the page, ideas, one side of the page, action. Some of those ideas need to be acted on. They're brilliant. They're not going anywhere. They need to happen. And some of them are just ideas.
Some of them are just bits of stimulus, right? That help us think about and
Exactly. And
reframe
maybe it
something
just got
else.
you exactly. Maybe it just got you too desperate to open your laptop that day. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
could, but maybe you don't have to. I could. You could, but do you have to? Do you want to? Is it going to make a difference? Does it matter?
This all relates to the theme that you've got, I guess, in the book about not giving yourself too much of a hard time, but focusing on what you can do, right?
Yeah. And what matters?
And what matters. But even when you laid out your timeline of what can I do in the next 2 hours, 24, I'm thinking, well, I might be able to do the 2 hours and I could probably do the 24. I'm then starting to panic about, well, what is the next thing? When you get people who are challenged like me, maybe, how do you help them unlock that kind of stuck moment, or maybe fear again of, oh, am I going to get this wrong? Is it realistic?
Yeah, I think that disconnecting that idea of busyness and self-worth
Yeah.
being the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not
I do.
judging yourself too harshly, staying in the present moment, what you can even not doing actually sometimes is a real gift to yourself, because I quite often just go for a walk. If I feel I have got so much to do and it's so counterintuitive, I will go for a walk because I will come back to my desk clear-headed and have a better sense of what I'm actually going to do first. What have I got the energy for?
I think there's
Um,
also something in starting small, right? Because it's little
yeah,
wins that create some momentum as we go forward. And
absolutely. Just to get in the mode, just to get into the activity mode. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
momentum's hugely important. I would like to touch on something I think is really important, and I think is a fascinating thing that you cover. And this is about boundaries
Mm.
and being really clear about the boundaries you're setting to enable you to keep focused on the important things. Now,
Mhm.
talk us through that. Why are boundaries so important and not a selfish thing, an essential thing?
Yeah, they are essential. So I suppose if you think about the things that matter to you being a bit like, so the things that you've planned to do, the things that need to get done, the things that you want to get done. If you kind of imagine them like you're a farmer and you've got these prize cattle, okay? And the things that need to get done, they're your prize cattle. Yeah, you're going to look after them no matter what. They're going to reap their own benefits for you. The last thing you would do is open all the gates and tear down all the fences around the fields and let your prize cattle go wandering off, and let them go wandering onto the A roads and the motorways and be in other farmers' fields. The last thing you would do, you'd keep them close, you'd protect them, you put a boundary around them. And we're not so good at having boundaries when we're really lovely, kind, people pleasing, helpful folk. And which are wonderful qualities to have. But if it means that you'll show up for other people before you'll show up for the things that are important to you, when you start to tip into that idea of you're overwhelmed, you might even then start to resent that you've given your time to other people or they've just taken it from you. They took those prize cattle. They wandered into their farm, their own field. So they're mine now. If you lose track of the things that are important to you, you might get that sense of resentment, frustration, and overwhelm. So it's really important to put boundaries around the things that do matter. And the most important thing about boundaries is that not only that you identify that you need them, but secondly, that you create them. Thirdly, that you communicate to other people that they're there. So yeah, I'm going to be really busy, there's that word. I'm going to be busy, focused today. I don't want any interruptions or distractions. I'm going to have my phone off because this is what I'm working on.
Mhm.
Okay, communicating that to people, but I will be available after next time, 4 o'clock. I'm free. And then I'll call you. Yeah, I'll call you when I'm ready. This sort of thing, so communicating to people what you aren't available for, what you are available for, and why not? Okay. And then the other important thing to do is stick to those boundaries.
Mm.
But then the final thing is important is to check with people they've understood those boundaries.
Yeah.
Did you mean it?
Yeah.
And if you're not good at sticking to them, they're going to think you didn't mean it. So check their understanding of the boundary you've put in place. Now, I did mean it. When my office door is closed, it's because I don't want to be disturbed. When there's a sign on saying podcast being recorded, please don't knock. So what is it that you feel you need to protect? It's precious and it's going to deliver the results for you that really matter. And can you do that first and then make yourself available for other people? If everybody did that, there'd be so much less drama because people would be looking after their stuff firstly, and we'd all have a little bit more help to help those people who are more vulnerable and cannot help themselves as well as others. But if we were all better with the boundaries, we'd all manage the drama and the distractions and feel less overwhelmed.
I love the idea of having a less full drama sponge. I think
Oh,
that
that's
can
fun.
be really distracting, particularly the sort of people you describe, which I think, lots of people fall into. Genuinely nice, kind, helpful people, want to look out for people, and we end up taking on a lot of other people's baggage. I totally empathize with that. I am interested, whilst I've got a coach with me in the room, your tips on defending those boundaries and maybe saying no in a way that doesn't offend. I've got lots of tips on what I give other people myself, but I've got an expert in the room. What's your best tip on saying no
Yeah.
with some grace?
No, I love that, with grace. That's so important. Um, no one likes a hard no, do they? No, a flat no, a firm no. So exactly, a no with grace. So it's saying what you can do first and then saying what you can't do next.
Mm,
So, or saying why you're not the person, but who else is.
yeah.
So if not you, who? Yeah. If it's not, if it's no, what else? Yeah.
It's
So
giving people support and options, right? Without clouding the clarity of, I can't do that.
that's right. And tell them sooner rather than later, because then they can go tap someone else up for that support.
Absolutely. Every
But if
time.
you say yes, knowing you can't help, or you might not be able to help, actually that lets people down in the long run,
What?
and you don't want that.
Well, no one wins, do they? Because you take on
No
something
one
you
wins.
can't deliver, so your reputation
That's it.
suffers. Their reputation
You
suffers
feel bad.
because you can't deliver. Your
Mm,
relationship suffers because you've let each other down. It's a two-letter word. If it can be delivered more effectively, you avoid all of that drama, which is what we want to
yeah,
do. And then
definitely.
thinking more positively, because you are a very positive person, Julie. You just exude positivity. There's a lovely thing, I think, within the bounds of the book, which is about, I mean, you used the word joy at the start of this conversation. There's this thing around, actually, sometimes with all the overwhelm, we can forget what we've got and how
Yeah.
things are going. So this whole thing about enjoying what you have, in
Mm,
rounding this kind of like help session that you've brought us today,
mm.
how important is that? And how does it show up, and how would you want it to show up for people?
It's so important. And, when people are overwhelmed, they are thinking about what's difficult. They're not thinking about what's possible. They're probably, um, so I think that helping people look through those different lenses, that lens of how are things actually going, so whether that's looking at the five different aspects of your life, and scoring them and recognizing the things that are good, what is going well, and also what could be better. It's not about yeah, I'm a very positive joyful person, but I don't gloss over things
Mm,
that need attention, and that's the important thing, that it's having that balanced perspective. So it might be that I'll point someone to think about, okay, so what can you celebrate, nurture, review, try again, and let go? They're five great ways of bringing a balanced perspective, which helps with our resilience. Resilient people have a balanced perspective. It's not all bad, it's not all good. They have a good understanding of how things are. So I will encourage people to say, okay, something good. Tell me something good. Let's celebrate that. Yeah. Is that true of where you were this time last year? Is it, what's so great about that? We'll celebrate that. What do you need to nurture? what needs a little bit of attention here? Why you've been having this difficult time? What have you perhaps neglected and needs a little bit of care and kindness? What are you going to nurture? Oh, and then people are starting to feel good because I think, oh yeah, actually this really matters to me. Yes, I've taken my focus away from it. Yes, it does. It matters. So how are you going to nurture that? And then I'll be asking them, okay, what do you want to review? What's the stuff that, yeah, you're telling me it's hard, it's tough. Do you want to review that then? And we'll start to look at that. And then I'll say, what do you want to try again with? Sometimes people are saying, I'm so overwhelmed because this has not worked out. Okay. Do you want to try again with that? And they might say, no, I think I've exhausted this now. I've really tried to bring this product to market. I've really tried to lead this team in this way and that way. No, I'm not going to try again on that now. I've done my best, but that's good. And then we're moving on to the what do you want to let go of? That kind of self-forgiveness and that recognition that actually, yeah, I showed up. I did what was needed. I probably went above and beyond. And actually now I'm ready to move on to other things that matter. Again, back to that freedom, fulfillment. Though, what are those things? And how can we get you to start to look through those lenses, because they're the things that will drive you forward. That's where your intentions lie.
I love
That's
that.
where your actions can come.
I love that because there's, again, to me, that comes back to a couple of things that we've mentioned. One being momentum and one being progress, right? Moving forward. And I know the two are connected, but all of those five allow you to see what you've done. Because I think sometimes in the overwhelm, we can forget the progress, the achievement that we've actually made. And even in that conversation of letting things go, that's moving forward. That's freeing up space. That's moving on from something. That's, again, momentum. Comes back to perhaps feeling like you've taken more agency or control over something. That's a win. That's success. That's achieving. It doesn't always, like to your point, it's not about stuff. Often this is about decisions that you make as opposed to things you've delivered. And that can be hugely motivational, can't it?
So true. And the way the book is structured, it asks the big question and then it'll ask you some insight questions. And the insight questions will be those things, what's your first step? What's the smallest thing you could do here? And sometimes, like you've just said, what's that little thing you can do to progress? Or look at how far you've already progressed. We don't look back very often clearly enough. We look back with kind of a muddy mind.
Yeah.
So what's the smallest thing you can do? Yeah, they're the kind of insight questions that I ask in the book and that I ask directly in coaching with my clients. And it's the ability to break things down that they become so doable. It sharpens our focus, and actually we believe ourselves to be so much more capable. So everything's so much more possible. We feel more positive. We feel more aligned. We feel more on track, and it is very. You can get a sense of gratitude from that for yourself. That is, it's very self-fulfilling as well, because these are the foundations that you build on and keep going forward with that momentum. That's what's so lovely. Yeah, it can be a really transformational thing for people when they do feel back in charge of where they're going and what
I
they want
think
to
so.
do.
I think momentum becomes addictive. When you recognizing these little successes, they can be the little spur on that you need. Julia, I actually think we've been very productive in this conversation, to be fair. I think we've
I think so.
covered a lot of good things. You've shared some fantastic tips. At the risk of underselling ourselves from the fives, I'm going to bring it down to threes, because in an attempt to sort of summarize your best bits of advice, we've come to the part in the show I like to call sticky notes. And I'm looking for those little reminders that people can stick on their screen, what those three little pearls of wisdom would be to help people keep their focus in check and keep on the right path as we think about, the year ahead. So what three bits of advice would you like to share today?
Yeah, so I think the three main takeaways for people that might be useful are, if we can uncouple this idea of self-worth and busyness, your busiest self is not necessarily your best self. I think secondly, clarifying your own intentions by considering what you're really looking for. That's going to help you plan some actions that will be much more aligned with the truest, bestest version of you. I think, thirdly, staying focused on what's important to you when that overwhelm looms, and it does, we all recognise it, but it can be kept in check when you remind yourself of the boundaries that you need to build, create, communicate, and stick to so that you can focus on what's possible.
Brilliant. I tell you what, if everybody uses those 3 sticky notes, grabs a mate and has a chat, I'm sure we can find some clarity and some focus and sort of start to feel like we're a bit more in control. But if people would like to find out a bit more about you, Julia, and get hold of the book, where should they go looking?
Yeah, great. I'd love that. So I've got a website, so ontheupconsulting.com. And there's details of my book on there and the work that I do with organisations and directly coaching people. And the book's available on Amazon and Waterstones online. And I'd love to say it's in your local bookshop. I don't know. Go and ask them. Go and ask them for a copy. I've got 2 different versions of the book. We've got the updated version this year, just launched this month. And so it's 5 ways to focus.
Brilliant. Well, all those links will go in the show notes as well, so check those out, everybody. Julia, what a lovely conversation. I've really enjoyed meeting you. I've loved listening to you. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope it's useful to people.
Undoubtedly it will be. Thank you very much. You take care.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, everyone. Well, that was Julia Wolfendale. And if you'd like to find out a bit more about her or any of the things we've talked about today, please check out the show notes. So, that concludes today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, found it interesting, and heard something maybe that will help you become a stickier, more successful business from the inside going forwards. If you have, please like, comment and subscribe. It really helps. I'm Andy Gorham, and you've been listening to the Sticky from the Inside podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening.